Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. On today's video, we're drafting a straight cut trouser. It will be having a band at the front and elastic at the back. So now I've placed my pattern on the table. Next thing we have to do, when you want to draft a trouser, you have to get your measurement right. So this is the measurement I will be using for this project. I came down from here by 4 inches. I will explain to you why I left this 4 inches mark. Please stick with me. So now you can see here I left 3 inches here also at the side because we'll be drafting the front and the back on this pattern. After that, we will now trace the front out of this pattern and cut the back on this pattern. From the waistline, we get the hip depth. The hip depth we are working with is 9 inches. So we'll mark 9 inches all round like this. And I'll connect the lines together. Okay, this is the 9 inches mark. Next we have to do is to get the crouch depth. To get your crouch depth, is either you sit down on a flat surface and measure your crouch depth, or you just do this easy step. You just divide your hip by 4. The hip I'm working with is 44. 44 divided by 4 gives me 11. So this is my 11 inches mark here. Then I'll bring this 11 inches mark down to this other side and connect together. This is the crouch depth. Now connect this line together with a straight line like this. I have a video already on how to draft a basic trouser, but I just want to start this from beginning so you get the jerk. So now for my waist to kneel, I have waist to kneel 22. This is 22. I'll bring this straight down like this and mark 22 inches. This is the kneel line. And now we have to get the length of the trouser. The length of the trouser we're working with is 43. So I'll mark my 43 inches. This is 43 and this is 43. So now connect all these lines together. So guys, now we've gotten the lines. Please, it's always good to label your pattern. Here we'll write, this is the hip line, this is the crouch depth, this is the crouch depth, this is the kneel line, and while this is the hem of the trouser, let's just say hem line. Please always label your pattern. Next we have to do is to divide the hip by 4. The hip we're working with is 44. 44 divided by 4 gives me 11 inches. This pattern, we are not going to be adding seam allowance on this pattern. Is when we want to cut on the fabric, we add seam allowance to it. So now this is my 11 inches mark here. I'll put this 11 inches mark on the crouch depth also, like this, 11 inches. And I'll bring it also to the waist, also 11 inches. Because we are drafting the front and back together, this trouser we are drafting, the front has a band while the back has elastic. So now I'll connect this line straight down like this. First thing we have to do is to get a front crouch. To get your front crouch, you divide your hip by 20. The hip I'm working with is 44. 44 divided by 20 gives me 2.2, but there's no 2.2 on the tape. I'll be using 2.5. So now you can see I put my 2.5 after this hip line. So I will just put this here and mark 2.5. After doing this, now we have to connect the crouch line together. So you just do this like this. You can see how it is. This is how to get your crouch. Now we get the front crouch line. So now next thing we have to do, let's drop our dart on this pattern. We just get our dart point, which is 4.5 inches. We'll come here and mark 4.5 inches and come down by 5 inches for the dart leg. So now I'll mark 5 inches here and connect this line on a straight line like this. Because we are putting that on this front pattern because of the front has band, like I said, the front has band. So now we'll open the dart leg by half inches. These half inches. Then connect the darts together like this. And so now next thing we have to do, because the back is having elastic, we'll just leave the hip like this straight. The back is having an elastic, and we will not shaping this front pattern so that it will be easier for entering when we want to wear it. So now we get the crease line. To get your crease line, you check what you have from this crouch depth like this. We are having 13.5 here. So you divide this by 2 this way, like this. Now we are getting the crease line. This crease line make your trouser to be very straight. You know we are cutting the straight trouser. So now check what we have here. 6.75. I'll come down here, 6.75, and mark. Then I'll adjust this. I'll come to the M line also and mark 6.75 and connect these lines together. Now let's assume you want to cut a pencil trouser. Let me just give you guys bonus. Let's assume you want to cut a pencil trouser. You divide your nail. You have to measure your nail. You divide your nail by 2. The nail I'm working with is 18. 18 divided by 2 gives me 9 inches. I will not just go and put my 9 inches like this. This crease line will allow me to divide this 9 inches equally. So now I'll divide, when you divide 9 by 2 again, it will give you 4.5. So this is my 4.5 mark here. I'll come here also and mark 4.5. So now we divide the ankle also. The ankle we are working with is 15. 15 divided by 2 give me 7.5. Then you divide that 7.5 by 2 again, like this. And we have 3.75. You drop your 3.75 on this. You share it equally. The 7.5, you share it equally. No cheating. So now we connect the lines together. You connect like this. From this hip line here, you connect straight down like this. And you come down here and connect also. And connect it to the hemline. You can see the way I connect mine. From the new line, connect it straight down like this. And connect this straight down also to this. Okay. So now we have to connect the crouch side, which is the inseam. We'll connect this like this. You come here and connect from the crouch to this new line. You can see the way I'm connecting this straight down, and you come here also and do the same thing to the hemline. Connect to the hemline like this. This is when you want to cut a pencil trouser, but what we are cutting today is a straight cut trouser. But when you are cutting a straight cut trouser, what you have on your hip, you bring it down to the hemline like this. Now you know the hip is 11. 44 divided by 4 gives us 11. So now you bring that 11 down here, but you don't just put 11 like this. You divide 11 by 2. 11 by 2 give me 5.5. So now I'll mark my 5.5 here on this angle here, and I'll come to this other side also and mark 5.5. This we are cutting the straight cut. And now connect this line from the hip straight down. Because we are marking a straight cut from the hip line, you just connect straight down like this. You can see I take it from the hip line and you come down. Because this is not a long ruler, you can see I'm taking it step by step. Okay, you can see now this is a straight cut, and you come to this crouch line here and do the same thing also to just be straight. I don't know if you're seeing this, but this is how you do it. You make the line straight because it's a straight cut. You bring it down to the hemline like this. So being this is a straight ruler, it will be easier to connect. So that's why I'm taking it little by little. Okay guys, this is how to draft a straight cut. This is the front pattern. You can see this marker line is a straight cut. This pencil line is like when you want to draft a fitted trouser, but when you want to draft a straight cut, you use this method I use the marker on it. So now let's draft the back pattern on this same pattern, but we're making use of this red marker so you can identify the back from the front pattern. So before we start to draft the back pattern, you know this front has a band. We can't just leave it straight like this because this trouser is high waist. I want it to be on the abdomen, or after like some inches after the abdomen. I'll add 2 inches to this. I'll add 2 inches like this, and come here also and add 2 inches. It's a high waist trouser. So for this method, it will make it easier for you, so your crouch will not be longer. So now connect this line together like this. This is the 2 inches mark here we have. Okay, so now I will connect my darts together. This is the new dart. This is when you want the trouser to be high waist. You add like 2 inches to it, and it will become high waist. It will be on your abdomen. So now come up by ½ inches here, like this, and connect this ½ inches mark to this dart leg here. Okay, so now we drafting the back pattern on the same pattern. So now to cut the back pattern, first thing first, we come back, depends on your hip. The hip I'm working with is 44, so I'll come back here by 1 inches on the crouch depth. Come here by 1 inches, and on this line here, on the waistline, I'll come in by 1.5 inches and come up by 1.5 inches. I don't want it to be too slant because we are having elastic on this, on the back pattern. So next thing we have to do now is to just connect this like this. You connect this 1 inches mark to this 1.5 inches mark we have here. You can see the way I do I mark this line. This is it. So now after getting this, you come like this. We came up from the waistline by 1.5 inches. You can see this is 1.5 inches because when you sit down, your bum, your waist will not be showing. That's why I came up here by 1.5 inches. Now we check for the hip line. We have 11. So bring the 11 here. To bring the 11 inches mark. Yeah, so this back will be slant. It will not be straight. You can see. Now this is our back pattern. So after getting this slant line, you know we came back from the crouch by 1 inches. Now we have to get the hip line. The hip we are working with is 11. So you mark your 11 here. But before we do that, let's make this correspond. What do we have here? 11 inches. Now I make it straight. 11, 9. So now you have to, because we came in by 1 inches, now we have to get our hip line. You mark your hip line like this. Now we get the hip line here on the crouch, 11 inches. And you add 1 inches for ease on this back pattern. So when you sit down, your trouser will not give way like this, 1 inches. Now you check what we have here, because we have to bring this mark on this hip line. What we have here, we have to bring it on this hip line, and we can't just come to this crouch here to check what we have because the line is slant, it's not straight. So we just check what we have from here. We have ½ inches. Come up here and mark ½ inches. Now we connect this line together like this. After getting this hip line, we have to get the back crouch line. To get your back crouch line, you divide your hip by 10 for the back. So the hip by 10, 44 by 10 gives me 4.4, but there's no 4.4 on the tape. So we'll mark 4.5 here. This is my 4.5 mark here. And now we have to get the crouch. When you want to draw your crouch, you don't have to make sure it gets to this line here. No, you just make sure you do it like this and you blend. This is the back crouch. Now let me mark this with my marker so you can be able to differentiate the back from the front. Now this is the back crouch line. These lines, the red lines, are for the back pattern. So now after doing this, next we have to do is to come to this new line and mark ½ inches for ease. You know this is the back pattern. You just mark ½ inches here and come here also and mark ½ inches mark. ½ inches line here. You come on the new line, mark ½ inches on the inseam, ½ inches on the inseam, and you come on the side seam also and mark ½ inches. You do the same thing also on the hemline. You come in and mark half inches on the hemline, and come here also and mark half inches like this. So now we'll connect this line straight down to this hemline. Alright guys, I'm done with the drafting of the front and the back pattern. This is how to draft a straight cut trouser. Now I will trace out the front pattern from this pattern, and I'll be cutting the back pattern on this. Then I'll cut it out on the fabric and show you guys what it looks like. Alright guys, I'm done with the cutting of the pattern, and I've cut it on my fabric. I added 1.5 inches at the sides, and at the inseam I added half inches. You can see I added half inches also on the crouch line and half inches on this pocket area. Please, I drop a link below on how to draft a basic trouser. I don't want this video to be too long, so I've gone ahead to cut my pockets and the pocket bag. So now this is the front pattern of the trouser. I'll put this aside. This is the back pattern. I added half inches at the crouch area, half inches at the inseam and 1.5 inches at the side seam. This is the pocket bag, while this is the pocket facing. My fabric is not enough for this, so I had to use Vida satin for the pocket, and I'll be using this as a facing for the pocket. So now let's keep this aside. This is the band for the trouser, the front and back band. The width of my band is by 4 inches. You can see it's by 4 inches, so I'll keep this aside. Now we're working on the front pattern first. Now before we work on the pockets, we'll be going in to sew our dart. This is the dart. I've launched it, so now we'll go and fold this in and sew this on half inches. Alright guys, I'm done with the sewing of the dart. You can see I've given this a good press. Now we'll work on the pockets. So we'll first be sewing on the pockets back. This is the pocket bag, so we sew like this on half inches. Let me pin this down so you can see. Okay, you can see this is how we sew on half inches straight to this place and stop and go straight down like this. After sewing that, we'll flip it to the other side like this. Flip it to this other side and just place our pocket bag. Before you place your pocket bag, you know the material was not enough, so I had to use the pieces and satin for the pockets. So now I will be placing these pieces like this. I will sew on this line and fold this place in so it will be neat. Fold it in like this, and so now let me do this and show you what it looks like. I'm done with the sewing of the pocket. You can see how flat it is. After sewing it, I double stitch it so it can lay flat. You can see how it is. This is the back. This is where we sew, and we flip it to this other side. This is my pocket bag. Now I'll turn this so we can place the pocket bag on it. So this is how it will be. You can use this technique when your fabric is not enough and you want to put a pocket in a clothes or in a design, anything. Just use this technique. Now I'll go to the sewing machine and sew half inches all around. Now let me sew this and show you. I'll do this and do on the other leg of the trouser. Alright guys, I'm done with the fixing of the pockets. You can see how it is. This is how your pockets will look when you fix it perfectly. So now we have to join the crouch. We're joining the crouch on half inches round like this. So now let me join this and show you what it looks like. I'm done with the sewing of the front crouch. Now we have to work on the back. So for the back, we'll be working on the crouch first. I will go and sew this on 1/2 inches the way I sew the front crouch. I'm done with the sewing of the back crouch. You can see how it is. Now we'll fix our band. I've cut out my band. I cut out the band on a straight line. The length of the band is by the waist, and the width of the band is by 2 inches. So now we'll be fixing this band to the trouser. To fix the band, I will sew on 1/2 inches straight down to the end like this. Let me pin this down so you can see how I will sew the band. This is how I will sew it. After sewing on 1/2 inches like this, I will now turn to the front like this. I will use the band to cover the 1/2 inches I sew in, and I will be sewing on this edge like this. So now let me go and sew this and show you how it looks. Alright guys, I'm done with the fixing of the band for the back trouser. Now we'll pass in our elastic. So now I'll be using elastic of 1 inches. The elastic should be 1/2 of the trouser, like 1/2 of the waist of the trouser, which is 11. Then I'll add 2 inches for ease so that it will not be too tight. Now cut this. Length of my elastic is 13. So now I'll cut this out. And I'll keep this elastic aside first, so we join the inseam before we pass in the elastic. This is my front trouser. I have gone ahead to sew in the band. You can see how it is, and I fold it in so we can turn it in like this after joining the inseam of the trouser. So now I'll be joining the inseam of the trouser. I'll go to the sewing machine and sew on 1/2 inches straight down to this leg, and sew to the other end also. Alright guys, I'm done with the joining of the inseam. Now let's fix the elastic into the band. So I'll be fixing it. I'll be using my safety pin to fix this like this. I'll use my pin to secure this down and continue pushing it out. So now I'll go to the sewing machine and sew this down. Alright guys, I'm done with the securing of the band. Now we have to join the band on 1 inches. So I'll be joining this like this. You can see the way I hold it and turn it this way in, and I will go and sew on 1 inches straight down. Alright guys, I'm done with the sewing of the band. You can see how I turn it in. Now we'll just flip it to this other side like this, and we'll sew this down on the edge like this. Let me sew this, and I will fold in the hem of the trouser on 1 inches. Alright guys, I'm done with the fixing of the band. You can see how it looks. This is how to sew a trouser with band at the front and elastic at the back. And I'm done with the hemming of the trouser. You can see how it is. So guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you guys. See you guys on my next video. God bless you.